I discovered my husband's offshore account, and now he is crying. Nathan never kept anything a secret from me, so he claimed. But he had always been a lavish spender, so I thought it best to stay away from questioning anything to do with finances. As a top-level executive in a huge corporation, Nathan made sure that my life was as comfortable as possible. We had a beautiful house, I was a full-time mother and managed the home, and he showered me with luxuries. Everything was fine, or so I thought. Looking from afar, my life seemed to be straight out of pictures, but things began to deteriorate when I noticed Nathan growing distant. He started spending too long at work, alongside domestic and overseas business trips. Whenever I tried to talk to him, he would make me believe everything was fine by assuring me that he had a slew of important projects at hand. But after a while, I found myself convinced that something was off with Nathan. Nathan's career was blooming, but the life that we shared was deteriorating. With a broad smile, I gathered enough courage to confront Nathan. I demanded my share of the family assets, alongside his account information, and what I had presumed to be digital gold mines had turned out to be his glorified offshore accounts. Nathan is now begging for mercy, and I am wondering what would life be like now. And with it, he started to receive phone calls late in the night that were equally as troubling. Whenever I pressed him on who he could be speaking with, he would always remain out of sight of the room, never mentioning a thing, and would only respond with vague statements. It wasn't only paranoia that was scraping at the back of my mind. It was also the gut feeling that always spun out of control day after day with excuses. The cracks in our perfectly normal lives began appearing, swallowing my thoughts with self-doubt. And finally, the day Nathan left his laptop on the kitchen counter unattended was the day I was going to make a change. Pillars of anxiety began to erupt as I fought with myself, my heart beginning to race in consequence. It was extremely poor etiquette to engage in any form of snooping with him, but considering all my assumptions, I was ready to test the waters. And while I believed that we were transparent with each other, as it turned out, we were not. Something pushed me, constantly questioning and seeking answers, which was all too shocking indeed. The reality I was confronted with was truly unbearable to come to terms with. But if you have subscribed to the channel, then congratulations, you will forever have access to interesting stories at any given time. The laptop of Nathan was still on, and it was opened on his email. With my hands shaking, I moved the mouse around and watched folders and messages flash on the screen. There was a part of me that felt like I was venturing into hostile territory, and previously established trust was breached. But I was desperate for some answers. My initial scrolling through his emails yielded no terrifying results. It was rather set business messages, newsletters from random companies, destitute communication as usual, and then, out of the blue, an unfamiliar bank, one I had never heard of Nathan mentioning before, seized my attention. It while Meth Bank Mr. Nathan used the account of. The email subject read, account statement, confidential. I didn't shift. One part of me needed the pursuing of unknown spying while the other half claimed morality on the topic. Best of all, the one that wished to find out the disturbing reality claimed the victory. So, I executed the command and opened the email. I was taken aback when I saw an offshore account with a dramatic balance of millions of dollars worths in transactions. As I scrolled through the details, I could see my account's balance modifiers. He had been funneling money into an account and self-sabotaging without my consent. IDOWorkHereLady never told me about this account, and for years there have been deposits made into the account that I had never known about. He was putting money away to hide it from me, so I could have never found it in the first place. Realizing the gravity of my situation hit me like a brick, and I was taken aback to say the least. This is not some dormant deposits account. This is an advanced savings account which is maintained with a combined identity. A master locker, enabling the siphoning and funneling of currencies into time-variant degrees of fresh market compartments. Sick with grief, my vision became blurry, and I started tearing up. All of this betrayal cut me to the very core and once deeply rooted me. We were happy, or at least I told myself that so I could cope, but staring down evidence that confirmed my husband had been cheating me forced me reality check myself. Why? Why would Nathan do this? Everyone tells me that we had built every pillar and block of an idealistic life that we could ever dream of. I felt strangled. My mind was racing as I closed the laptop. The room around me had begun to spin. I had to confront him. There were answers that needed to be asked. But what would he say? How would he explain this situation? He came home late that night as he had been doing recently. I was at the kitchen table, with my laptop closed. I noticed his expression shift when he saw the red-rimmed marks around my eyes. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut with a knife. "Lena, what's wrong?" he said with more concern than I expected, walking toward me. I pushed the laptop toward him, even when my hands were trembling. "Explain this," I shouted. My voice strained from the feeling of betrayal. For a moment, he looked like a deer caught in the headlights. He froze for a moment, looking shocked. His eyes went to the laptop, then to me, as the color drained from his face. "Where did you find that?" he said with barely a whisper. "That information was accessible," I remarked, restraining my fury. "This matter was in your emails." "How long, Nathan? How long have you left this from my reach?" He sank into the chair opposite me, running both of his hands over his head. "Lena, it is not what you presume." "Not what I presume?" I laughed bitterly. "You have kept hidden multi-millions in an offshore account. Are you kidding me? What should I presume?" Nathan was silent for a while. He just sat there. His face was an amalgam of fear and dread. How could I have thought him to be so resolved and indifferent? It was terrifying and infuriating all at once. He finally said, "Lena," and started to break down. It was a precaution. It is not what you think. I was not trying to keep it from you to hurt you." My hands formed a fist and I began to glare at him. "What is it, Nathan? Why do you have so much money in your bank? Are you trying to say that you were looking to leave us or retire and relocate to some new place?" "No, no, no. It was never about that," he said, shaking his head furiously. "I was trying to protect us." "Protect us?" I asked, spitting the words out incredulously. "How is it hiding millions of dollars protecting us?" Sighing heavily with his shoulders slumped, Nathan said, "My job. It is not as stable as it looks. There are uncontrollable risks. Something could happen which we would be totally unprepared for." "That is your justifying excuse?" I snapped, anger now at the forefront of my voice. "The fact that I don't want to worry you means I should just lie for the next couple of years. Do you even consider how this affects me?" I continued. "You have been living a double life, Nathan. Do not twist my words." "I didn't live a double life," he said, raising his voice and starting to sound more desperate. "You have no idea how grim the future looks, so believe me. I was protecting it. It was all for you and the children." I shook my head vigorously, tears streaking my face. "You want me to believe that? That you were looking out for us? Because it looks to me like you were about to run away. You were all set to leave us behind as you made off with the money." He widened his eyes and went into a panicked state. "Lena, no. I would nunca leave you and the kids. Never. You're my family." "Family?" I mirrored back while the word felt like it was catching fire in my throat. "Family is forged through faith, Nathan, and you obliterated that the instant you chose to keep this from me." He extended his hand forward across the table. It was quivering. "Please, Lena. I know I messed up. I know I should have undone the damage. But I didn't want you to see me as this all-encompassing failure." "A failure?" I cackled with bitterness. "Nathan, the failure isn't the financial problems. No, the failure is deceiving your wife for years. And that's where the trust we had goes to die." He shook his body while dropping his head into his hands. "I didn't know how to fix it." With the passing of time crossed, it grew increasingly difficult to make the disclosure. I was tensed on how you would react and what decisions you would take. Observing him closely, I could feel the gravity in his voice, but the sense of betrayal did not hurt any less. The lies and deceit have not resulted in any form of redemption. The person whom I thought to be my husband seemed like a complete stranger now. The following days felt like an absolute chaos. Nathan kept apologizing and tried explaining himself in the same manner repeatedly, stating that he opened the offsite account as a primary safety deposit in case I lost my job. However, I could not rest with the assumption that it was only that. I was at a loss. Everything felt as if it was spiraling out of control, and I was being engulfed in a world of bewilderment and betrayal. I certainly did not wish to destroy my family, but how could I stay with a man who had concealed such a huge detail from me? One evening, while sitting alone in our bedroom, Nathan entered the room. He looked exhausted and defeated. He has not been his normal self since the confrontation, and I can see how it has been affecting him. But I had long moved past the point of caring. He knelt in front of me and took my hands in his. I attempted to break free, but he pulled back. His gaze was pitiful. "I love you," he stated as his voice cracked, "but having hurt you, I understand that it is not worth your forgiveness. Please, I know my desires have had terrible consequences, but understand that the only reason for it was to protect what we love most, our family." Nathan spoke, and with every statement it strained my heart more. "You ever for once considered the emotional damage your lies have done to me? Did you consider how considering this life was never unearthing hidden parts of your life was going to affect your marital trust with me? Why should I ever put my faith in you again? Just help me out. My understanding of the marital trust we had shattered into pieces is too much, he pleaded. I am ready to go the extreme length of transferring the money back, closing the account, or even providing you with unfiltered access to all my devices. Just give me a chance. I struggled to blink with the tears rolling down my eyes that were gazed wide open while shaking my head in disapproval. What on earth makes you think this is knowing me and cherishing our life is ruining finances? It's incredibly worrying that you refuse to accept that the horror that has been built from a house of cards can be dealt with built on trust. I'm sorry, Lena. I never meant to, he muttered, reluctantly loosening his grasp. I reserved for controlling everything is losing you, meant losing a lifetime of love and happiness. My eyes went dark as a wailing note escaped my lips. You already have, Nathan. You lost me the moment you chose to hide this from me. What lay ahead for us was uncertain. Nathan was half right. Our lives were indeed in shambles. The existence of the offshore account was just one symptom of a deeper issue in our marriage. A problem I didn't know was there until this very moment. During the subsequent days, I consulted a lawyer. I had to figure out the options available to me. For all his begging, Nathan had crossed a line that I wasn't sure could be rehabilitated. Yet, while sitting in the lawyer's office and explaining the situation, I felt remorse wash over me. This wasn't the life I had hoped for. This definitely isn't the marriage I had pledged to sustain. On the other hand, Nathan tried his best to make things right. He transferred the money back into our joint account, closed the offshore account, and stripped himself off any control he had over the finances. He was attempting to demonstrate to me that he was willing to take steps towards fixing the damage he had caused, yet my trust on him was already broken. My heart sank as I saw the children's confusion. It was almost impossible for them to comprehend why their parents had changed so drastically. Their shielded-up reality left much to be desired, revealing much more than what I could show them at that moment. Divorce is gruesome, but somehow the prospect of it fell into a category that was easier to cope with compared to filing for divorce and attempting to reconstruct my life devoid of Nathan. So, would I attempt to salvage whatever part of us was left? Through honesty, I would always prefer an alternate route if escaping meant strolling down a road paved with ease, where savoring the identity did not warrant burdening revelation through speech. Understanding their whole suffering stemmed from the truth finally released shocked me to my core, but going on further, I decided their servitude was not my concern. My husband and I commenced counseling, individually and jointly. The onslaught of emotions coupled with years neglected stewed up, containing shelter to unresolved fears did bring agony, but it was blissful in some ways. To top it all off, he was not only concealing these emotions from me, but on a much deeper level concealing them from himself. Why? Because simply possessing a goal as drastic as financial disaster was never spearheaded by just one singular motive. Gradually, we started to put the pieces back together like a puzzle. After all, trust can be likened to a delicate piece of glass which is fragile and quite easy to break. Even when I wanted to walk away on certain days, the anger and betrayal always threatened to consume me. However, I also had moments of clarity where I remembered what attracted me to Nathan in the first place. It is not a conclusive ending, but at least it is a start, a chance for us to reframe and redefine our marriage. While deeply scarred by the past, I still feel relieved that we can slowly strip away the web of lies and deceit that made it all so troublesome. While learning to let his guard down, Nathan learned that he did not have to hide behind a barrage of deceitful lies. Likewise, I came to the realization that I am able to let go of my idealistic view of a perfect marriage. Even if we were far from perfect, we still were a family trying to piece together the fragments of our new, messy life. Whether it be marriage or life itself, there is no possible way to anticipate the future. All that we can do is live in the now. For the time being, I can proudly say that we are still surviving together, and I feel that should be more than enough. My sister surreptitiously saved and sold a family business without my consent. Now I am left broke. Throughout my life, family business was the one constant. Bennett & Sons had been a well-known chain of home decor stores for 3 generations. My grandfather built it all from scratch, which was later expanded by my father. When my father passed away 5 years ago, he left the responsibilities of the business to my sister Claire and I. What is surprising is that my sister has sold the family business without my consent. Claire and I had different approaches attuning to the business, which often led to arguments while working together. Our shared passion for the company helped us overcome those differences. It was not just a childhood memory, it was something we cherished. The family business gave us purpose. The store was where we spent our weekends and holidays helping our father stock registers and shelves. The business was in our blood. Dad trusted us to run the business and divided the shares equally after his demise. We had a family business pact that was clearly defined by my father. Emphasizing the importance of family, we were meant to work together, something which I seemingly forgot. That is what I thought. We have been together through this journey for many years. I personally organized day-to-day operations, which included store and employee management. Everything worked like it was supposed to. Claire, from her side, used her business degree to market the company and finance it while also ensuring that the ever-evolving economy didn't negatively impact us. It wasn't ideal, but we coped. In the end, we supported each other, had disagreements, resolved them, and pushed forward. But then something started to change. Claire grew apart from me, showing disinterest in the day-to-day operations. She would suggest that we sell the company since the market was changing, and it might be better to cash out than to stick around. I was not in agreement with her views. I truly think that as long as we worked synergically, we could tackle anything. To me, the business was more than just a workplace. It was an integral part of our family's identity. I assumed that we reached a consensus and were on the same page on the topic. Sadly, I was quite mistaken. Following our channel guarantees you will never miss any updates because you will be able to access interesting stories at your convenience. Unfortunately, if you're not subscribed, those stories will be permanently lost to you. When everything fell apart was a normal Monday morning. Upon arriving at the main store in my vicinity, I was greeted with an abnormal peace and quiet. I then noticed that employees were cuddled in small groups and gossiping whilst appearing very anxious. I was confused and walked inside only to meet Marcy, our store manager, to try and make sense of it all. "What's going on?" I said while a tightness settled in my stomach. You completely zoned out, haven't you?" was the reply I got as she remained silent. She turned to face me and showed a wide expression of shock and concern with tears in the corner of her eyes. "What?" is the word I used to raise my demands. With trembling hands, I read the official document, lifting it up to allow the others to see and yelling, "You freaking show them," and their faces were priceless. My heart sank when I skimmed the paper. We have been sold. Not only sold to a family member or a small business owner, but a massive corporate chain. Like, we are consumed by the business. Everything suddenly felt like it was crumbling. I thought claws were tearing at the very foundation of my reality. This could not possibly be right. Claire would never do this to me. We had discussed the future of the business, and selling it was never a consideration. I quickly made my way to my office while trying to reach Claire. After numerous failed attempts, she finally answered. I was furious on hearing how casually she spoke. "Claire," I said. My voice was shaking. "What the hell is going on? Why is there a transfer of ownership?" On the other end, there was a long silence. Finally, she spoke, devoid of any sense of empathy. "I sold the business, Matt." My heart started racing. "You sold it?" "I had to," she repeated. "We were going bankrupt, so I did what was best for the both of us." "Best for both of us?" I yelped, feeling the fury rise within me. "What do you mean? You didn't even talk to me about this. You completely went behind my back." "That was a choice that took a lot out of me," she said icily. "But it was warranted. The market has shifted, and we can no longer afford to compete. You are well aware of this as much as I am. We are making it work." I screamed. "There was always customers. There was loyalty. Sentimentality doesn't pay the bills," she interrupted. "This was the only way to secure our financial future." "Our financial what?" I reiterated, bewildered. "You mean your financial future, don't you? Tell me how much you got, Claire." The other side went silent. I felt as if I was about to burst. "Father's achievements? Everything went down the drain just because of your idiotic decisions," I said, with a pinch of disgust in my voice. "You sold our family's legacy for money. How could this happen?" "There is nothing you can change now, Matt," she spoke in a calm tone. "It is already done." Claire clearly did not have the decency to speak to me first, and now I was stripped of everything. With a click, I ended the call and took a moment to compose myself. Claire has sold the business. My heart shattered when I realized that myself and my family was now left with no backbone business, and everything was gone now. The days that followed were painful. I kept switching back and forth, in a mix, what if I changed my decisions, and what if neither of these statements mattered? The business was certainly tried to be purchased from us, but Claire was so adamant of selling it that she did not care what came out of it. I dreaded the encounters with the employees. I knew that a lot of them have been here for years and were dear to us. How was I supposed to break it out to them? That my sister has brokered a deal behind my back? That after investing so much of their lives to the family business, their hard work had reduced to just another tick mark on a corporation's assets list? The buyers moved swiftly. They rebranded all the stores and laid off all the employees. Those who were kept on were placed on a drastically reduced salary. Everything that once filled in the shelves started getting replaced with low-quality mass-produced grocery items. All the products that once resonated with Bennett and Sons' ethos had disappeared. But as for me, I dregs of losing everything. The new owners showed no inclination to keeping me in the company. I simply was too much of a burden for the progress they needed to achieve. I attempted to contact Claire, hoping she could appreciate the gravity of her actions, only to be ignored. She has taken her share of the money and faded away. Not only did I lose out on the business, I lost my family too. I, along with Claire, was partnered with a family business that was passed down to us. Now, I am left feeling scandalous because the only person I could put my faith on has left me high and dry. It is not something that I can simply overlook. Anger fueled me and motivated me to take action. My first step entailed investigating the sale to see if there was any legal loophole that would allow me to challenge Claire's actions. To accomplish this task, I had to bring on board a business disputes lawyer who practiced in the area, Martha. She seemed sharp enough and had years of experience, so I set out everything for her from my business partnership with Claire to our family business history and the secrecy that shrouded the sale. Martha carefully analyzed the papers. "There is a subsection here," she said on one afternoon, directing her finger to a line in the partnership of the agreement. "Any major decision such as the sale of the business needs both partners to reach a consensus. As such, Claire breached that clause when she unilaterally sold the business without your agreement." I could feel conviction welling up inside of me. "So what you're saying is there is a case?" Martha nodded. "We do. It won't be simple and it will take time and effort, but the long answer is yes. You have the right to challenge this in court. We filed a lawsuit against Claire with the premise that she sold the business without my consent, which violated the terms of partnership. The subsequent litigation was vicious. An aggressive legal team had been retained by Claire which seemed to trust no bounds and countered with a strategy to nullify the clause using her superior business sense to claim that she had acted in the best interest for the firm. The media sensationalized the issue, which in fact stemmed from the dissociation of siblings from a family business. I despised all of it, the scrutiny, the attention, but I staunchly refused to relent. My battle was not singular. I was also defending the legacy of Bennett and Sons, the workers who were laid off, and the loyal customers misplaced. The wars fought in the court went on for months. She appeared every day with a blank look on her face, dressed in a designer outfit. Not once did she bother to glance at me, and thus completely disregarded the feelings of pain and treachery I was enduring. It was as if she was a different person, an alien to me. I considered the day of the verdict to be one of the most excruciating days of my life. With Martha accompanying me, I assumed my position in the courtroom. As the judge began pronouncing the verdict, I felt like I was suffocating and my heart was racing. The ruling was in my favor. Claire breached the partnership clause by executing the sale without my consent. The contract of sale was rescinded and Claire and I were to be joint owners of Bennett and Sons once again, undivided. The purchasing corporation was compelled to forfeit their interest in the business, and Claire was instructed to refund the proceeds she received. Nonetheless, the business was returned to us, but it was merely a shadow of its former self. The stores were closed, the staff had left, along with the loyal clientele. Bennett and Sons had been stripped off its lifeblood, and all that remains are hollow structures and shattered aspirations. As I exited the courtroom, I noticed Claire standing to the side. She locked her eyes on me, and although they were lifeless, for the first time, I noticed something else, maybe regret, or simply the realization that she scrapped her dignity, all in the name of financial security. I chose to ignore her and kept on walking. There was no point on standing there further. In the months that followed, I tried to restore my life into a functional state. My business was once again under my name, but this felt more like a loss than anything at all. The stores, none of the Bennett and Sons brand Willstries were left functioning, all obliterated. Along with the saga of the Bennett and Sons brand having a tarnished reputation due to the media frenzy spin that came along with the insidious legal war we had to partake in. But there was a victory, and I wasn't about to let go of it. I was not shallowing my father's legacy be abolished because of what Claire had crafted. Everything I had went into this reconciliation with the primal focus being on restoration, centering on the community alone, for the support from these people to claw myself abroad the abyss I found myself in. Money did not matter, plastering my brand everywhere did not matter, but rather building an establishment that people had emotional value to did. Like a miracle, customers slowly began pouring in. Folks that once shopped at the old Bennett and Sons themed store. Features that were once a trademark of ours were now sorely missed. It allows me to conclude that while the old Bennett and Sons features might be gone, the spirit remains. The ethos of customer-centric novice businessmen. The new business is starkly different. With every dramatic trademark change, the ethos of the business does come. It is thrust onto the brand. Claire became absent from my life. After the progressed through with the court, she relocated and buried the last of the remains of our relationship. I came to know through some common friends that she was starting new life at some other place, but I did not contact her. There was too much wrong that had happened, too much agony and treachery that could not be reversed. To me, family has never truly been about lineage or the family name. It is about love, trust, fidelity, and a willingness to battle for matters that are truly important. Claire chose wealth over family and security over honor, and that was a decision that had consequences which she had not equally anticipated. As for me, my focus shifted towards mending what was broken and lost. I knew right off the bat that Bennett and Sons will never be how it once was. Ben is dead. But I stood, and so did the business.